Do autistic people perceive gender differently than neurotypical people? Probably. Most of what we think of as gender is performative: how one dresses or speaks, what hobbies or work a person does, how a person's body is shaped. People will argue with me, but no one is checking strangers' genitals in public. Autistic people tend to have a low tolerance for rules that don't have a logical explanation. So cultural rules like a man can't wear a dress or only women wear nail polish don't really work with a lot of autistic people. Autistic? I don't know. I used to say when I was little I wanted to be a boy and a girl, but it was really just because I didn't want to wear dresses and liked Pokemon and got on better with boys. Now that I'm grown up, I don't want that. I just don't really buy into stereotypes of what women and men are meant to be or whatever. It's not something that bothers me though or has made me want to make any changes to myself. I just like what I like and dress in clothes that are comfortable, which happen to usually be men's clothes because they fit and feel nicer and get cooler anime designs lol. I agree with what someone else is saying about gender just being performative. It's also just not important to me. But I totally respect that it is to some people. I'll say it louder for the commenters with the oddly binary responses to this question. Not all autistic people perceive gender differently just because some do. Goodness gracious. Sure, sometimes. Gender perception is mostly based around social norms, and autistic people can have trouble with social norms. I have ADHD and never understood gender roles growing up. They never made sense to me, and as an adult I know why they were completely made up by our society. I was born a woman, and still want to look like and be a woman. I just don't want to be shoehorned into specific gender roles that serve no purpose to my survival. Isn't gender dysphoria when someone doesn't feel like the sex they are born? That sounds completely different to gender roles. Let's say we have two trans people who have not found out they are trans yet. One is neurotypical, and one is autistic, who is gonna challenge the whole arbitrary system of gender and find out they are trans first, the neurotypical one, or the autistic one, who would naturally have a tendency towards defying societal norms. I feel the answer is clear. It's called the spectrum for a reason. There is no singular way autistic people think. As someone who is autistic, I look at rules, la social mores, and whatever else you want to call them with great scrutiny. If I think one of them is stupid, pointless, or harmful, I will not follow it. I still very much have morals, but anything that only has the reasoning of because I said so, but it's tradition, or because your God said so, is going to be instantly ruled and nonsense and not something to follow. This applies to my view on gender. Gender roles are fucking stupid, make no damn sense, and are artificially created. They are the epitome of nonsense. So I will do what's comfortable to me, doesn't hurt anyone else, and fuck anyone who tries to make me comply. Oh god, I need to drive to work, but short answer, yes. I could write whole essays about this, but the TLDR is the gender binary is dumb as hell. There's a few theories on this subject, but last I heard there was no general consensus. Some autistic people consider their autism to be an integral part of their experience of gender. Some of them use the term autigender to define it as separate from other experiences of gender. My partner is on the spectrum and has never felt comfortable with their assigned gender, but likewise doesn't feel like they quite fit in most other genders. They don't identify as autigender, but they do think their autism has affected how they feel about gender. My personal theory is that, since autism makes instinctive adaptation to social behaviors difficult, meaning that you have to work things out for themselves, people with autism end up thinking more about gender than allistic people do. Most allistic people don't think much about their gender without a strong feeling initiating it. Autistic people work out their gender from first principles, and as a result, are much more likely to decide that the standard package isn't quite right for them. I don't really have patience for things that don't have logical reasoning. Gender is one of those. Why does it matter if X person wears Y thing? Or if someone wants to appear feminine masculine? I couldn't bring myself to ever give a single thought against someone expressing themselves in a way that's inoffensive. It's their right to be themselves. I am autistic and I never really understood gender as a concept. For me it's just sex, biological thing, and that's it. I have always had problem accepting other gender, not sure how to describe it lol, includes trans, non-binary PPL etc. people, as I just can't understand it, and it feels unnecessary. Also my language doesn't utilize genders like them very well because it sound like we are talking about a thingatum, not human, so it also makes it pretty uncomfy. I saw a post online where autistic people were talking about this, and the agreement was basically gender is stupid and autistic people aren't, which was both hilarious to read at the time and pretty much summed up the thoughts and feelings on the matter. Not all autistic people think the same, however once someone says I am a woman, or I am a man, or I am a Fathom. It doesn't matter what they look like or how they dress, I kind of just take it as set in stone. I don't think gender roles make a lot of sense, because they are inconsistent and don't account for historical trends. Many people don't lean into their gender. People will experiment, especially when younger. But hang out with some older people and you'll see there's really not the same trends towards the extremes you can get either teens and young adults. People stop performing gender as much and just do what's comfortable, which is usually pretty unisex. Neurotypical cisgender people often appear to be very aware of their biological sexes at all times and kind of lean into it for lack of a better description. As a neurotypical cis male, I wouldn't say I'm very aware of my gender. I haven't actually given it much thought at all at any point in my life that I can remember. It was just, parents, what you are is called a boy because you have that dangly bit you pee through. Me, okay, that's a valid way to differentiate between people, I suppose. It was just one more descriptor of my body's properties, like the color of my hair or the hand I preferred to draw with. It's not that I felt confident in my gender or happy that I was born a man, it just never occurred to me that it could be any other way. I've never fitted into any societal norms or stereotypes about men. I'm a skinny tech nerd who knows nothing about cars and cries when watching sad films, but that never led me to question my gender. I hope this helps you develop your theory. I'm autistic and I just don't get gender at all. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm female and I have a personality that is me. I don't have a personality that is woman. I wouldn't really care if I woke up as a guy assuming everyone else was on board and it didn't completely overturn my life. But that's an entirely different issue than being a different sex. I don't feel connected to my gender because what does that even mean? Everyone seems to define it differently anyway, and I'm sure as hell not going to declare my agreement with feminine stereotypes which mostly suck because they've been created over history for the benefit of men. There are well-documented correlations between being trans and autistic. The question is why? Your question frames it as perception of neurodivergent people. I think that makes sense. But what I think is more likely is that autistic people aren't more likely to have dysphoria. I think they are more likely to be willing to buck the societal norm against being trans and so are more likely to do something about it. Basically, I think there are a lot of neurotypical people who might be trans in a different society, but they follow the unwritten rules of society instead. Autistic people are more likely to not know or not care about those rules, and so are more likely to break them to be trans. All of the above is speculation. Like I said, all we have is correlation, but that's how I tend to think about it. Yes, it's recognized. Autistic people tend to have a hard time with arbitrary rules, and what could be more arbitrary than the genitals you're born with? There's a book called Gender Identity, Sexuality, and Autism that might interest you.